When you think about how international conflicts get started, you probably picture some really serious stuff, right? Formal declarations, broken treaties, that kind of thing. But what happens when a major global standoff starts with, well, with what sounds like a scheduling complaint? Let's dive into what happens when a threat of war is met not with a counter threat, but with a simple and very strange tweet. And get this is a real tweet from the official account of the Iranian embassy in Zimbabwe. I mean, read that. It's polite, it's weirdly specific, and it is just completely bizarre. This doesn't sound like international relations, it sounds like someone trying to reschedule a Zoom call. But this was a government publicly responding to something far, far more serious. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because this wasn't just some random post that went out by mistake. This very polite, kind of trivial-sounding message was a direct and very public response to an explicit threat of military strikes. So, what on earth was Iran thinking? What was the game here? Okay, to really understand that bizarre tweet, we've got to zoom out a little. We have to look at the context it landed in, which was a super tense, rapidly escalating crisis with massive global consequences.
So the flashpoint was the Strait of Hormuz. Now you got to understand, this narrow waterway is one of the most critical shipping lanes on the entire planet. It's basically a vital artery for the world's oil supply. So any disruption here, any at all, sends these immediate shockwaves through the global economy.
And all that tension basically boiled over when then U.S. President Donald Trump issued this very direct ultimatum to Iran. It was a clear line in the sand with a hard deadline, Tuesday, 8 p.m. And yep, that is the 8 p.m. the Iranian embassy was so politely asking to reschedule. And the threat wasn't vague at all. The president explicitly warned of attacks on civilian infrastructure, even calling the day Power Plant Day and Bridge Day. This was a threat of overwhelming force, and it was aimed right at the heart of Iran's national infrastructure. So you're facing this incredibly severe military threat. What do? Well, Iran chose not to respond through the usual traditional diplomatic channels. Instead, they logged on and deployed a whole new strategy, one basically written for the digital age. And that Zimbabwe tweet, it wasn't a one-off. Around the same time, Iran's embassy in India posted this, a direct personal insult aimed squarely at the U.S. president. The tone here isn't diplomatic, it's aggressive, it's informal, and it's clearly designed to reframe this whole thing as more of a schoolyard spot. And this comparison just lays out the shift perfectly. On one side, you have the standard tools of statecraft, right? Formal, measured, official. On the other, Iran's new playbook, sarcasm, mockery, and content that's literally designed to go viral. And in doing so, they were deliberately mirroring their opponent's own combative online style. So let's actually break these tactics down. First, you've got mimicry. They copied President Trump's signature style of using initials at the end of the tweet, which is a subtle but very direct way of mocking him. Then ridicule and humor. By treating a military ultimatum like it's just a scheduling conflict, they trivialize the whole threat and turn it into an internet punchline. And finally, direct insults, which completely toss out the rulebook of diplomacy for the language of online flame wars. Now, this isn't just random online chaos. It actually has a name. Meme-driven diplomacy. It's a calculated information strategy. The goal isn't to negotiate. The real goal is to control the narrative, to undermine your opponent's credibility, and to rally support by making the other side look foolish, aggressive, or maybe even both. So this brings us to the bigger picture. This online back and forth isn't just happening in a vacuum. It's really a parallel conflict being fought right alongside some very real military and economic tensions on a totally new kind of battlefield. But why does all this digital back and forth even matter? I mean, they're just tweets, right? Well, because underneath all the memes and the insults lies a staggering real-world reality, and it can be summed up in a single fraction, 1/5. That's it. 1/5 of the entire world's oil supply passes directly through the Strait of Hormuz. So this digital spat, these memes and insults, they're being traded directly over a physical choke point for the entire global economy. The stakes really couldn't be higher. So you end up with this incredible clash of tactics. One side is speaking the traditional language of power, military hardware, escalating threats. And the other side counters not with threats of its own, but with these digital theatrics that are designed to rob those threats of their power and make the whole situation seem absurd. And all of this leaves us with a fundamental, and I think really fascinating question for our time. In modern conflict, as information itself becomes a weapon, Which battlefield ultimately matters more? The one fought with missiles and warships? Or the one fought with memes and hashtags?